Hi everybody. This video is for all of you couples and spouses and partners out there who may be just in a relationship or who may be in a situation where one of you is starting to care for the other person. And the question that I'm answering today is, what are the 5 reasons for a spouse or a spouse caregiver to maintain their independence? Now, the challenge is that most spouses don't have these conversations, right? Before you were partnered or spoused up, you had your own life. You probably took care of yourself, and you probably did a really reasonably good job doing that. But what happens when one spouse begins to have health problems and they become more independent on the other spouse? What do you expect? If the care needs get significant, do you expect your spouse to give up all of their friends and all of their outside activities and their interests to become your full-time caregiver? Do you expect your spouse to be tied to the house because you're tied to the house? Do you expect your spouse to deprioritize their health so their health gets worse because they're spending all of their time caring for you? Now, I know anybody watching this who isn't a spouse in this situation is thinking, how on earth would that ever possibly happen? Well, it does, and I know it sounds pretty crazy, but this is exactly what happens to spousal caregivers who don't have conversations about caregiving, who don't have conversations about what happens if I get sick, what do I expect from you, or if you get sick and I'm still healthy, what do you expect from me? Few spouses have these discussions. Now, you might think, well, this would be reasonable or that would be reasonable, but the word reasonable, or what is reasonable, actually depends on your relationship or the state of your marriage or your partnership. Are you a couple who does everything together? If you're here, your spouse is here. If you're here, your spouse is here. Do you have all of the same friends? Do you have all of the same interests? Have your lives become so intertwined that there's just no separation between you and your spouse? You are both this combined person. Or is there a bit of independence where you don't spend all your time together and you have different friends and you may actually take separate vacations and couple vacations and you both have jobs and maybe a little financial independence? So in this video, I'm going to talk about 5 reasons why spouses should maintain their independence. I'll give a little bit of background about how this independence thing works, and help you consider and think about what is it you expect from your spouse. If this is your first time here, I'm Pamela D Wilson. I am a caregiving expert, advocate, and speaker who helps adults and their caregivers work through health, financial, legal aspects, family relationships of caregiving through one-on-one consultations with me. You can find the link below. You'll also find links to my website where there's plenty of other helpful information. Please do press the button, like this video, follow my channel, share these videos, and comment, even if just to say, hey, thanks for the video, share your story below. Your participation in any of these ways, liking the video, following my channel, sharing these videos, or commenting, helps other people find these videos. So let me start by talking about my parents. If you've seen my videos before, you've been on my website, you know that my parents have passed away a very long time ago, and that my mom had a lot of health problems, and my dad was reasonably healthy. Well, there was a time when my parents, well, actually years, when my parents would drive and travel and go see all my brothers and sisters. But after a while, my mom's health problems got so severe, she had heart problems, among many others, that she didn't want to travel anymore because every time she left, she would end up in the hospital somewhere halfway across the country. And she didn't like being in a hospital in a strange place. Who would, right? So eventually she said, I'm done. I'm not traveling anymore, which left my father feeling a little like, stuck, because he was healthy. He could still travel. So the question here is, should a healthy spouse be penalized? And I know penalized may sound like a harsh word, but should a healthy spouse not be able to do things they still love because they have a sick spouse who doesn't want to do those things anymore, who wants to spend all of their time at home? Interesting question, isn't it? The answer depends on your relationship. Now, my opinion here is no, and I'll share why. A lot of research out there confirms that limiting activities, healthy spouse, sick spouse, results in that healthy spouse's health declining because they used to do all these things and now they're doing not all these things. You can compare this to older people who move into assisted living communities or a nursing home. You have a person who walks in and they're independent. They're just walking. Then you have people on walkers and wheelchairs. So if you put a healthy person into a place with all these sick people, what do you think is going to happen? If you put a person who walks in with people who only use walkers or wheelchairs, what do you think is going to happen? That healthy person is going to decline to the main level of all of those other people because the environment takes over. The healthy person doesn't go out and do things because all these people can't, right? Healthy person has more health problems because all these people are more sick. Healthy people need to spend time around healthy people. Not that they can't take care of sick people, but otherwise their environment, the people they spend time with, the situation that they're in has limitations, and it really closes in and changes their physical health, their mental health, and everything that goes with it. If you think about it, this really is no different than being a person who wants to learn. If you want to learn, who do you spend time with? You spend time with people who can do what you want to learn. You spend time with people who are at a higher level, who are smarter than you are, right? Because that's how you learn. Exposure to new things, exposure to more information, making your brain work just a little bit harder. Now, otherwise, if you don't, and you're the smartest person in your group, it's going to be hard to raise up your level of intelligence or your level of knowledge or your level of experience because you're sharing it with everybody who has less experience. So in a sense, you hit this ceiling that you're bumping up against and you can't break through. These examples can show how a sick spouse with a healthy spouse can hit a ceiling, right? The sick spouse can always get better, possibly, depending on their health conditions and their desires to do that. But the healthy spouse, if all they spend time with is a sick spouse, that's going to be their environment. That's going to be their limitation. They have got to get out of the house. So the question for you is, do you really want your spouse to suffer limitations in their life because you don't want to do things anymore, or because you have health problems, or because you've changed your interest in something? I know some spouses who would say, well, yeah, I do expect that. And I know other spouses who say, oh my gosh, no, I would never want to do that to a person that I love. But what happens in many spousal partner caregiving relationships is that the healthy caregiver, the healthy spouse, keeps adding and adding and adding and adding and doing more because they have this sense of obligation that goes beyond what may honestly be reasonable in a relationship. And again, remember, reasonable depends on your relationship and what it was like all those years that you were together before one of you got sick. So let me share 5 steps that I think are very important for spousal caregivers to remain independent and why these are beneficial. So, number 1, spousal caregivers should do something every day that you love Find a little time for yourself. Carve a little niche for yourself. Go out and do something. Why is this important? It helps balancing having to respond, if you are in this situation, to continual problems, to continual changes in the health of your spouse. One day it's good, one day it's bad. It's up and down, constantly up and down. Everybody needs to know that there is just a little bit of stability in your day, wherever you put it, that helps you maintain your peace of mind, your mental confidence, to know that, yeah, all of this may be totally crazy, but over here I have my little safe space. I have my little time that I'm going to get every day that helps me be able to deal with all of this crazy that's over here. Number 2, I recommend maintain friendships and social activities that have nothing to do with your caregiving life. This is all those things that you did before you were a caregiver that you really, really enjoyed. Do not, under any circumstances, give them up. It is important for you to know that there is a life out there besides caregiving in the 4 walls of your home. Having friends who have nothing to do with caregiving allows you to not lose touch with the world that's out there, the world that's going on regardless of what's going on in your house and in your life. So consider this your non-caregiving group of friends. Compartmentalize these relationships. These people over here are not caregivers. These people give you time away from the stress and the work of caregiving so that you don't feel isolated and you don't feel depressed and you have some happy time where you're not having to talk about your problems. Now, to balance this, number 3, join a caregiving support group. There's one on my Facebook page. It's called the Caregiving Trap. There are probably on-site caregiving support groups where you live. Find one. This allows you to take all your caregiving stress and your frustrations and put it out there and talk to other people who are in your exact same situation, who understand, who aren't going to say to you, "How can you be so tired? What do you mean caregiving is such hard work? You're crazy. It can't be that bad." Or, "Yeah, you should be the caregiver for that person." This group gets you. But the statistics are less than 15% of caregivers seek help in a caregiving support group. Less than 15% seek education or want to learn from others. There is a ton of education and resources right below this video. Scroll down and find all of the links. This group, these people, they're your people to call when you're having a bad day. The other people, the non-caregiving group, those are the people you want to be with to get away from having a bad day. Number 4, eventually, your spouse may not have an interest in doing the things that you like to do anymore, or physically they may not be able to do them. Like my own parents, I saw this with my parents. This doesn't mean that if you're the healthy caregiver, you should or you have to give up doing everything that you love. Maintain the friendships and routines outside so you can do the things you love. Find somebody to watch your spouse or your partner if they cannot be left alone. I spoke to a caregiver last week, and her husband has a couple health issues, but he's just to the point where he doesn't want to travel anymore. And she loves to travel, and they used to travel together all the time. But he's perfectly able to be alone in the house. She, God bless her, is going on vacation with her friends. And that is the way that it can be. That's a positive relationship, because having these differences in a marriage or partnership actually very healthy for people. That way you're not so intertwined and so dependent on the other person that you don't even remember who you were before you got married. So in this case, for these caregivers, husband gets to stay home and do whatever he wants. The wife's going on a trip of her life to see friends and enjoy herself. honestly, a little distance is what I mean, between the caregiver and the care receiver, even if only for a couple hours a week. It's a good thing. Spending too much time with somebody, it can be exhausting. It can be depressing. You can feel isolated. It's not always a good thing spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week with somebody, and you never get away from each other. Number 5, if you're the healthy caregiver and your health doesn't decline and you take care of yourself, you probably will have a life after caregiving. And if you do these other 4 things, you won't have to start from scratch. You won't have to start from the basement. I often talk about caregivers are on different levels. Basement all the way up to the penthouse, based on what you learn in caregiving. If you don't learn anything and you don't know the importance of maintaining relationships and taking care of your health and maintaining some independence, you're probably going to be in the basement or on maybe first floor. Where if you do this, you may be like, 6th or 7th floor, maybe close to the penthouse. If you do this, you won't have to start from scratch. You won't have to rebuild all of your relationships and go find people to spend time with and figure out what you are going to do when you're in your home or your apartment, all by yourself. This goes back to the importance of everything I discussed before. So if you are stuck presently in a 24/7 caregiver relationship for a spouse, and you've never had these conversations before, is it time to bring this up? Now, it might be a little hard if you've never done this in your entire life. I totally understand that. But for your own health, physical health, mental health, future well-being, it's important to start turning the ship so that you can start doing a few things for yourself, like taking care of your health, and find a way to rebalance this care situation so that you're not doing it all. Because doing it all for a caregiver is very, very hard. It's exhausting, mentally and physically. Not good for your health. Now, if you're a caregiving spouse earlier in a caregiving relationship, it's probably easier to have this conversation about, well, what do you expect? And this is kind of what I'm thinking. What are you thinking? And can we come up with some kind of a middle ground where I do take care of you and I'm committed to your care, but I also want to have a life of my own. If it gets to the point, or you don't want to do these things anymore, I'm still going to go do them, even if I have to do them by myself, or if I have to find new friends to do them with. I'm going to maintain some sense of independence from this caregiver role. Because the bottom line is, caregivers who take better care of themselves are better caregivers. When a caregiver gets sick and has health problems, what do you have? You have 2 people who are like in a sinking ship, and you're both struggling, and one of you cannot possibly rescue the other person. 2 people suffer. And it's a tough situation to be in, but it happens. So, watch this video again. Go back through the 5 things to find out ways for you as a caregiver to maintain more independence. I'm Pamela D Wilson. I am a caregiving expert, advocate, speaker, and consultant. Links to schedule a one-on-one consultation with me or to learn about the other help and support I provide to caregivers are all below. Thanks for being here. Again, please like this video, follow my channel, comment, even if just to say thank you. Helps other people find their way here. I will see you all again soon in another video.